In the 1970s, oil was discovered in Papua New Guinea, but the mountainous terrain and triple canopy jungle posed seemingly insurmountable barriers to the development of that tiny country's oil resources. It was a dozen more years before Chevron Oil Company of Houston, Texas came up with a plan for development and production of the oil field, and to that end hired Bechtel Corporation of San Francisco, one of the world's premier construction management companies, to help devise a plan for accessing and improving the site of the proposed oil project in the area of Lake Kutubu in PNG's highlands. The site would only be accessible by air, there being no roads in the area, and so it was decided to build an airstrip on the edge of the lake to serve as a staging area for men, equipment, and supplies supporting the project. Everything would have to be designed and built to fit in the back of an aircraft. But what kind of airplane could handle a job like that? It's like this pretty much every morning. Rain and fog. By mid-morning it will be Kavu. But right now the goal is to find a hole in the clouds that will allow a safe descent below the cloud deck to an altitude slightly above the waters of Lake Kutubu. This crew is tracking a bearing from a non-directional radio beacon at the Moro airstrip, supplemented by distance information from a co-located DME Alpha transmitter. The beam from the radio beacon provides course guidance, and the DME Alpha, paired with information on a handwritten jungle jet, tells the crew how low they can safely descend at that distance. There's high terrain all around, so like so many things in life, it's best not to stray from the straight and narrow path, at least not until you can see where you're going.
Hotel Charlie, Foxtrot Hotel, I've just passed Guinea, 3,500 inbound from the market. Roger, copy that. Water is nice looking. Great work.
Once clear of the clouds, the radio aids can be abandoned in favor of navigating by familiar landmarks, like skimming along the so-called spine of the crocodile. Up ahead, to the right of the nose, is Kutubu Point. It's here that a decision must be made whether to continue the approach inland or to blow it off with a climbing right-hand turn and take the escape route back to Sari intersection to hold, until either the rising sun burns off the fog or, if you hit bingo fuel, show the white feather and return to Nadzab with a full load of cargo still on board. Kutubu Point, assuming you can see the runway, or at least see the VASI lights at the side of the runway, you can turn from base leg to final. But once you make that left turn toward the runway, you're committed to land. Bechtel's load planners have arranged things so that every landing is at max landing weight, 135,000 pounds. So while it's possible to make a last-minute go-around and still clear the surrounding hills, your chances of success are marginal. At this point, you're inside the boundaries of the circle of blame.
You're down before that circle of blame. Our bikes. Left. All right. Center. Landing here. Yeah, all right. Center. Landing excellent. Turn on pump pressure. On good. Left full. Left full. Left 50. I can start it now. I can take it off. Yeah, wait 2 minutes. That's the full. No swivel steering. Flaps. Air full. Roger, runway clear. Full line checks complete.
The folks at Bechtel, who certainly know something about large-scale construction projects, estimate each of our 3 Hercs will average 2.5 trips per day, and that it will take 3 years for us to complete our work. We think we can do better than that. Our goal is 5 trips per day. The cargo in the back is on a big skid. When parked, the gooseneck trailer pushed by a farm tractor will be positioned behind the ramping door, and the cargo dragged out using a hydraulic winch on the trailer. Using this arrangement, our ground time unloading is under 10 minutes if we don't need to refuel, and 15 minutes if we do. That mud puddle ahead is not there by accident, but by design. There was a mismatch between the height of the airplane's ramp and the height of the trailer that would pull the cargo skid off. It was only a couple of inches, but it was enough to thwart the offloading system. One of our loadmasters came up with the idea of digging a hole for our nose wheel to rest in. That was just enough to raise the ramp and bring the plane and trailer into alignment. Everyone has his song to sing, and every place has its tale to tell. And so it is with Lae, the capital city of New Guinea's Morobe province. Lae is located on the northern shore of the Huon Gulf, on a peninsula that divides the Solomon Sea from the Bismarck Sea to the north. Both bodies of water saw decisive naval engagements during World War II.
It's Shopping with Bob, featuring Bob. You know this guy?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna go document our walk here. Shopping with Bob, featuring Bob. See you later. Good to see you, man. Number one. Buai. Okay, show me how to do it. I'm gonna show you how to do the buai.
Buai is the local name for betel nut, which the natives all seem to chew. In fact, chewing betel nut and spitting out the red juice seems to be something of a national pastime. When I first got to Leh, I remember walking down the street following what looked like a blood trail. When I turned the corner, I half expected to stumble upon the site of a massacre. But all it turned out to be was a bunch of locals chewing betel nut and spitting on the sidewalk.
This way? Okay. Number one.
If, when you were looking at that satellite photo of Leh, you thought, hey, that looks like an old runway, you'd be right. There was an airport in the middle of the city before air operations were moved out of town to Nadzab. During the Second World War, Leh was a Japanese stronghold. Japan's greatest ace, Saburo Sakai, was based there and told of his experiences in his post-war autobiography, Samurai. Nadzab, on the other hand, was held by the Allies. Edwards Park wrote what life was like at Nadzab during the war in his memoir, Nanette, Her Pilot's Love Story. The airstrip at Leh and the runway at Nadzab are only about 10 minutes apart, with the Allied base at Port Moresby only a half hour or so away. Needless to say, each side bombed the other regularly. But Leh has another claim to fame. It was the last place the famous American aviatrix, Amelia Earhart, was seen alive before she and Fred Noonan, her navigator, departed on their date with destiny and aviation immortality. Down at the old airstrip, there was a much-neglected memorial dedicated to Amelia Earhart. One day, on their day off, a couple of crew members, Dave Briesmeister and Craig Cross, by way of homage, one airman to another, organized a work detail to go down and cut the grass and generally clean up around the memorial. Sadly, since then, the brass commemorative plaque has been stolen, and the memorial to that intrepid pioneer of aviation defaced.
Crazy, man. Finally. See you later. Hey. It's one of the lads.
Would anybody ever want to be reminded of this place?
Oh yeah. No, it'll you'll get nostalgic about a month later.
I doubt it.
The big ones. How much is that one? Huh? 35. Oh, very nice. Maybe next time.
So a nice souvenir outside Burnsville, one of the guys there. It one of the paradise
Uh-huh.
on a sort of shield type thing.
Oh. Huh. Yeah, you can't take any bird feathers back to the States, though. Guy's weird. Thanks. It's
When in Leh, our home away from home is the Melanesian Hotel. As hotels go, it's nothing special, but it's adequate. The story is that the hotel was going to close until Southern Air took over all of the rooms to house our pilots, flight engineers, loadmasters, and mechanics assigned to the Kutubu project. The hotel staff is friendly, and the food is good. But what is most interesting is the menagerie of exotic critters living outside in the garden.
Hey, come on down and play. Come on. Hey, I got lettuce, look. I got lettuce, come on. Hey, Kilroy, here's some lettuce. Want that? Come on. You like lettuce, don't you? Yeah, come on. Oh, man. Hey, you guys. Come on down. Hey. You're not supposed to have the lettuce. Hey, guy. Okay, you guys. Here you go. Now, you don't like this stuff. You just tell me. Here. Come on, guys. There's an apple. Okay. Hello, Kilroy. Yeah, man. What an ugly guy you are. You are ugly. Ooh, look at it. Look how big that is. Hey man, you mushed my lens.
One day off, the crew and I got an invitation from Tony, the husband of our airfield secretary and den mother, to take a boat ride up country to visit a couple of villages. We had to go by boat because there are few roads in PNG. We rallied down to the Lay Yacht Club, or Yachty as the Australians call it, and met Tony as he was getting his speedboat in the water. The members of the club have been both friendly and welcoming to us American flyboys. The Yachty is more a haven for working boats than pleasure craft, and is a great place for cold beer on a hot afternoon. We stowed our gear and headed off up the coast, happy for a chance to spend the day on the water instead of at the hotel. About a half hour out, we crossed paths with a ferry boat heading for Port Moresby and stopped for a bit of a chinwag to pick up on the local news, particularly any news about a large saltwater crocodile that has been prowling the area. It had already claimed 17 confirmed victims that year. Those big crocs have even been known to swim along in the wake of a boat, hoping for a meal to fall over the side. About an hour after our encounter with the ferry, we reached our destination and picked our way along the reef looking for an opening in the coral and a safe place to drop anchor. We waded ashore, then left Tony on the beach to transact his business, while the crew and I hiked up a jungle track to visit a nearby village. Perhaps the worst thing about this job is that you spend a lot of time away from home. And yet, in some ways, that's also the best part of the job. Unlike some other flying gigs, where you swoop into a foreign city, go to the hotel for crew rest, and then zoom out again in a day or so, we're here for 7 weeks at a time, sometimes more when replacements are slow in coming. And over the expected life of the Kutubu project, you're assured of doing multiple tours of duty here, with only short breaks at home. But if you're the least bit curious about the world, you do get to explore exotic surroundings, live on the local economy, and learn something about the life ways of other people. Travel, after all, is supposed to broaden your horizons.
Lore, craft and lore. Wanade. Dave Danger. Another adventure with Dave Danger.
Show this to Ruane and say, see what you missed by working.
He's got a radical jacket on there. It's happened. It's happened. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. What is the name of this village?
Bois.
Huh?
Bois.
Bois?
Bois.
How do you say it? Bois.
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 Yes.
Bois.
Spelled B-O-A-C.
B-O-A. Bois?
Bois.
Bois. The village of Bois? Bois. Is that right?
I came rather late in life to the writings of Henry David Thoreau, and maybe it's advancing age that causes me to find his account of life in the woods near Concord, Massachusetts, summoning. But there is something attractive about life lived away from the hurly-burly of the city, and something compelling about Thoreau's advice: simplify, simplify. Village life is simple, in the best meaning of that word. There is a certain allure to being in a place where time follows the rhythm of the sun and the moon, the tides and the seasons, instead of the wristwatch and the alarm clock.
Cool, huh?
The people here are surprisingly friendly, and not disturbed at all by having a trio of Mzungus troop through their village with a video camera. As we pass along, people smile and say hello, The kids especially are curious. They approach the camera, then scatter, then come back again, giggling and laughing all the while. I guess that's something of a universal, transcending country and culture wherever kids are found. If I have one regret in life, it's that I wish I knew more about the places we go before I get there. Every place has its story to tell, and they will tell you, if only you're willing to listen. But I guess it's better to learn the story, even after the fact, than never to learn it at all. Today has been a real treat. To travel up country and meet some people and see some places I never expected to encounter. But now it's time to get back to Leh. After all, we're not here on an anthropological field trip. It's time to go back to work. It's time to fly. When the Kutubu project began, Bechtel and Chevron were planning on our averaging 2.5 trips per airplane per day for 3 years. We thought we could do better, and we did, averaging 4.5 trips per airplane per day. We flew our first trip to Morrow on 5 May 1991, and over the course of the next 21 months, we flew some 3,500 trips, carrying over 75,000 tons of equipment and supplies. Every nut and bolt, every piece of equipment, every bit of the day-to-day supplies needed to support the men who drilled the wells and operated the production equipment was carried in the cargo bay of a Hercules. Heck, we even made our own jet fuel. And despite 18 engine changes, we still managed to attain a reliability factor of 96%, a testament to our Brit mechanics who kept the airplanes flying despite our being on the opposite side of the world from our home base and supply lines. As a result, Chevron was able to turn on the taps and start the oil flowing earlier than expected. Harold Pierce, Chevron's on-site manager, remarked, "When I get back to Houston, I'm going down to the county courthouse and having my name legally changed to Jesus Christ, because headquarters thinks I've been working miracles over here. We love you guys." But on 28 February 1992, it was all over, at least for us. The Chevron guys were heading off to Azerbaijan on a project to rehabilitate some old oil wells in that former Soviet Union satellite. As for us, well, some of us would be going back to Africa to fly famine relief in Sudan and Somalia. But with the end of the project, others of us were destined for the unemployment line. I flew the last trip tomorrow, and when I got back to Nadzab, found a celebration waiting. Chevron and Bechtel had organized a big barbecue for all the Southern Air personnel involved in the project as a thank you. The very next morning I left PNG, never to return. But at least I can say, been there, done that, and got the belt buckle to prove it.